Welcome to our Investigating Conspiracies podcast. I'm Yuri, and today I'm accompanied by
Finn.
Malachi.
And Alia.
Today we're diving into K129 and Project Azorian, the Cold War operation where the CIA tried to haul a sunken Soviet nuclear submarine off the Pacific seafloor using a massive claw, disguised as a deep-sea mining project. It sounds like science fiction, but it really happened.
So the real question for Azorian is, what is true? What's confirmed by evidence, and what parts invite implications and speculation?
Rooting out the confirmed accounts from the speculation is especially important here because it's a case that sounds absolutely insane on first hearing, but is backed by leaked and declassified government records and credible historical reporting. Because of the wild nature, many aspects invite speculation that can be taken as a fact.
Our point being that each claim needs to be tested. We'll follow the evidence in order. What happened to K129, how the U.S. found it, why they launched Azorian, how the recovery worked, and what the recovery did and didn't accomplish.
K129 vanishes in early March 1968 while on patrol in the North Pacific, around 2,400 kilometers off the coast of Hawaii. 98 personnel goes down with it, and the Soviets sent a search party that lasts around 2 months, but to no avail. It's treated as a quiet, major loss. For the Americans who were quietly picking up on the fact that an entire Soviet submarine, possibly carrying weapons and intel, just went down a few miles from the 50th state, and the K-129 spells opportunity.
The U.S. Navy, they use something called SOSUS, and this is an underwater acoustic listening system, which is basically a network of seafloor microphones designed to detect and track submarines. Now, these operators on SOSUS, they pick up a strange acoustic event fitting exactly the sound profile of a submarine going down. And that is what first tips off the U.S. intelligence that there might be an opportunity for them.
Then comes the search itself. The U.S. sends the USS Halibut, a nuclear-powered submarine that was already prepped for deep-sea reconnaissance. The Halibut runs a photographic survey over the SOSUS-identified area and captures images of the wreck on the seabed, confirming the sub's identity, location, and extreme depth, around 5,000 meters below the water surface.
There we have it. Two independent confirmations. SOSUS picks up the acoustic signature, and later, the Halibut mission photographs the wreck, both of which are backed up in official records.
Once the K-129 is confirmed on the sea floor, the CIA's interest is obvious. This sub carried ballistic missiles, nuclear warhead systems, cryptographic gear, and cutting-edge Soviet naval tech. If you can recover even part of that, you get missile design data, communication methods, and a snapshot of Soviet capabilities. In Cold War logic, that's a once-in-a-generation intel prize. So the motive to attempt a recovery is strong, despite the obvious risk of doing so.
The risk is exposure. Any visible U.S. salvage effort could tip off the USSR, trigger a diplomatic crisis, or push the Soviets to interfere. Remember, the entire point of this is to avoid destruction at the hands of the Soviets through intel. So the CIA needs a way to run a massive lift operation in the open while looking like it's doing something else. That's why a cover story isn't optional here. It's the core of the plan.
So, what do you do when you need an effective cover for a recovery operation that could worsen an already pretty bad relationship that involves getting microwaved by the energy of the sun? Get an eccentric billionaire, Howard Hughes. A billionaire known for his multiple business operations and his eccentricities, the agency partners with his companies because Hughes' public image and industrial reach makes a perfect front.
So now they announce a civilian project, which is a giant ship built for deep-sea mining, supposedly to harvest manganese nodules from the ocean floor. Now publicly, this vessel gets the neutral commercial identity and a believable task. But secretly, it's being engineered with a huge central moon pool, a lifting system designed for one job, grabbing a submarine at an extreme depth. And we think of it as a giant claw machine kind of wrapped in like a mining huge story. The CIA doesn't just send a ship. They get Lockheed Martin, a mass manufacturer of aerospace defense, to build the Glomar Explorer from scratch as a dual-use machine. To the public, it's a huge deep-sea mining vessel with its key feature being in the internal moon pool. Again, this is an opening in the ship's belly where the submarine could be lifted completely out of sight. But alongside it, they also built the Hughes Mining Barge 1 as a sheltered dock to assemble the capture system and the pipes away from public view.
Engineering-wise, this was absurdly hard. K-129 sat around 5,000 meters down, and each section of this pipe string lowered and locked like an offshore drilling rig. Except here, it's holding a multi-thousand-ton wreck. The ship had to stay stable in the open ocean while carrying shifting weight, so they used precise station keeping and heavy ballast control. And every step had to look like a normal mining work, while the real hardware, the capture, claw, and lift frame, remained disguised.
Chronologically, this is also where the tax pressure hits. While Hughes companies are financing and building this mining ship, huge, unusual structured payments and assets tied to the Glomar Express start drawing attention from the U.S. tax authorities. That's a real operational risk. A serious tax audit or state-level ship tax claim can force subpoenas, detailed accounting, and questions why this one vessel involves so much classified spending. Declassified material and later reporting show that the project eventually became tangled in disputes over California tax liability on the ship. And at one point, Hughes was relieved of a ship tax claim, meaning the issue got so serious that it ended up in official proceedings before it was resolved.
So, now the secrecy isn't just about the ocean and the Soviets, it's also about the books. The CIA and Hughes' team have to make every single contract, invoice, and ledger entry look like a plausible deep-sea extraction project, clean enough to survive the tax scrutiny without ever pointing to Project Azorian.
We keep what tracks the technical records and credible historians. The moon pool, the pipe lift system, the barge, and the capture vehicle are documented in declassified material and engineering accounts. It's all there. It's all written. But because that's how we avoid the, man, these CIA guys are sure are expert liars, so they must still be lying trap.
Glomar finally sails to the recovery site and starts the lift in total secrecy. The public story is deep sea mining, but the real move is lowering that mile-long pipe string through the moon pool to latch onto K129. For days, they're basically doing offshore drilling in reverse, building a vertical column, section by section, then slowly raising the sub towards the hidden bay inside the ship.
And then the key moment. The capture system suffers a failure partway up. Reports describe parts of the claw completely breaking, which in turn causes the other end of the sub to completely split off, falling back down onto the seabed with no real hope of being recovered again. The result is not a clean, full hull. Only a portion of K129 makes it into the Glomar's internal bay, while the rest drops back onto the seabed. That failure is central because it sets the boundary between what's confirmed and what people want to be true.
Here's what the public record supports. There was a real lift attempt and a partial recovery. Declassified CAA/Navy material and later credible historians line on that core. The recovered section included human remains, and the CIA filmed a burial at sea ceremony for the Soviet sailors they retrieved. The footage exists, and there's one of the strongest/physical anchors for what actually came up.
So, here is our evidence-supported verdict. Project Azorian was real. The CIA did run a deep ocean recovery mission, and they built the Glomar Explorer under Howard Hughes' deep-sea mining cover, then tried to lift K129. That core story is backed by U.S. documents and credible historical accounts, and once the press leak hit, it lit up conspiracy talk all over America. Now, these claims that they raised the entire submarine and grabbed every warhead and walked away with all the code books and missiles is a very stretched version of the research that we have done. These outcomes, they may be possible, but they are not proven in the public record that we have. Based on what we've learned in this course, our rule is simple. The conclusion stops where the evidence stops. We don't connect dots that aren't actually there.
What the record firmly shows is an attempt and partial retrieval. So it doesn't conclusively show in public that it's like a fan favorite ending, obviously, but the U.S. recovered every missile warhead and codebook. I mean, maybe. That lands in the course's third bucket, unknown.
Probably not, though.
Yeah, I don't know. Not disproven, and it's not demonstrated with evidence that we can actually verify, so.
And
a lot like the Illuminati.
Yeah. And that gap is exactly why this operation, it grows into legend, right? The secrecy was so extreme, and the press leak hit mid-operation, like right in the middle of it, right? And then the CIA formalized the Glomar response. I mean, like, you've probably heard this before without knowing the context to it, but we can neither confirm nor deny.
Oh, good one.
That's a classic.
Yeah.
That's a classic. I call that the parent response.
Glomar response.
That kind of official silence doesn't just protect sources, it also supercharges speculation. It's a textbook example of how limited evidence plus high stakes create stronger, more dramatic versions over time.
So, our final conclusion, Project Azorian isn't just about a theory. It's a documented CIA operation, and the Hughes mining cover is part of how it stayed hidden for so long. But the biggest claim, like the CIA got everything off at K129, including nuclear warheads and cryptic code material, It goes beyond what we actually can confirm. Those jump past what the public record can support. The gap is the real lesson here. Real conspiracies hold up when you push on evidence. The extra cinematic add-ons either collapse or stay unproven. Our job is to match the claim to the evidence and stop right where the proof runs out. That is investigating conspiracy.